In the spring of 1916, on a bend of the River Tigris, a British army was dying of hunger. For nearly 5 months, it had been trapped, waiting for a rescue that never came. In the end, 13,000 men laid down their arms, the largest surrender the British Army had suffered to that point. No British force would surrender in greater numbers until Singapore, 26 years later. But for the men who marched out of Kut, the worst was still to come. Their surrender was not the end of the dying. It was the beginning. It began in triumph. In late 1914, a British and Indian force landed at the head of the Persian Gulf and seized Basra. Through 1915, they pushed north up the Tigris, taking Amara, then Kut-al-Amara itself, column after column carried into the heart of Ottoman Mesopotamia by paddle steamer. Ahead lay the glittering prize, Baghdad, and the force ordered to take it, the 6th Puna Division, was 3/4 Indian. 25 miles short of Baghdad, among the ruins of Ctesiphon, the Ottomans were waiting. On the 22nd of November 1915, Major-General Charles Townshend threw his division at their lines. The fighting was savage, and when it was over, neither side held the field. But Townshend had lost 2 men in every 5. Too weak to go on, he turned his exhausted army around and began the long retreat back down the river. By the 3rd of December, the division had fallen back into Kut-al-Amara, a town all but encircled by a loop of the Tigris. Townshend chose to stop, to dig in, and to wait for relief. It was a fatal decision. Within days, the Ottoman commander, Nuruddin Pasha, drew his lines tight around the town. The garrison was cut off. The siege had begun. For 147 days, they held. Overseeing the Ottoman armies was a German field marshal, Julnar von der Goltz, sent to stiffen the Sultan's forces in the field. Inside the perimeter, the trapped division, most of them soldiers of the Indian army, ate their horses, then their mules, and at last, almost nothing. Sickness spread through the flooded trenches. Their only hope lay downriver, where a relief force was gathering to cut its way through. Again and again they tried. At Sheikh Saad, at the Wadi, at the Hana Defile, at the Dujaila Redoubt, British and Indian troops hurled themselves at the Ottoman lines barring the river. And again they were thrown back. General Aylmer was relieved of command. His successor, Goring, did no better, broken at last before the trenches of Sanayat. The attempts to break through cost some 23,000 casualties. The ring around Kut never broke. Inside, time was running out. 2 last gambles were made. On the night of the 24th of April, a river steamer called the Julnar ran the gauntlet up the Tigris, packed with food. 9 miles from Kut, at Megassis, a steel cable strung across the river stopped her dead, and Ottoman guns tore her apart. Her 2 officers, Furman and Cowley, would both be honored with the Victoria Cross. And on the riverbank, the British offered the enemy up to £2 million to let the garrison walk free. The Ottoman War Minister, Enver Pasha, refused and made certain the world heard of it. On the 29th of April 1916, Townshend surrendered. He was taken to a comfortable villa on an island in the Sea of Marmara, where he would sit out the war in something close to luxury. His men were marched on foot 1,000 miles across desert and mountain into the Anatolian highlands. Roughly 1/3 of them never came home, dead of hunger, thirst, and the cruelty of the road. The ordinary British soldiers died worst of all. Britain was stunned. A royal commission was convened, and its report was so damning that one minister called it simply a cemetery of reputations. Careers ended. A Secretary of State fell. Less than a year later, a new British army retook Kut and marched into Baghdad. Yet the men who had surrendered were still dying in Ottoman camps. Kut was avenged, and then it was forgotten. The worst defeat of a war the British chose not to remember.